Valorant's new skin bundle called Blackthorn is dropping later today, so let's take a look at everything that you're going to get in this collection. I'll show you the animations on the Classic and the other guns in a moment, but first, the gun everyone is here for, the Vandal. The model is a little confronting at first. It's fairly bulky and spiky, especially for a Valorant skin. It almost feels like some of the agents shouldn't even be holding this. I see the vision of the roots transforming into metal, and in the locker, I do think this skin comes together really well, but then somehow when it's actually being held in hand, I guess the angle doesn't feel as clean to me. Anyway though, clicking off the animations now, and the equip animation is alright. We've gotten this materialized effect a few times now, although I will say I love how the roots come first, and then the rest of the skin forms around them. Then the reload is pretty simple, but I actually really like it. It feels like the original magazine just gets old and rots and falls out before a new one grows in and takes its place. I think my only wish for this one is that they removed that little push as if the hand is still moving the magazine and instead made it properly fall out. Lastly, for the animations, the inspect is nothing crazy in movement-wise, but the audio does a really good job of encapsulating what this bundle is all about. I especially love the eerie sounds in that inspect. It almost feels like something out of a horror movie, and in general, a lot of the ambient audio pieces on this skin feel really well done when you're just handling the weapon. Next though, the actual shooting sounds fall a little bit short for me, but let me know what you think of them. It's not that they don't fit the skin or anything like that. I just normally prefer the more powerful and impactful sounding skins, whereas this one almost feels like papery or hollow to me when you're shooting. It sort of reminds me of Oni in that sense. The shots just seem a little bit weak. Also, the muzzle flash is something I rarely notice or put emphasis on in these videos, but in this case, I don't know if they made it bigger or what, but it definitely stands out more than normal to me, and I think it looks good. Then, arguably the most important part of any skin, the kill banner. This one doesn't do anything too crazy for me once again. It's sort of sinister sounding, but it doesn't really reinvent the wheel as far as aces go. Now, I will say the finisher does a really good job of pulling all those sounds together that I've talked about, but before that, let's take a closer look at all of the other weapon skins. First of all, the Classic is pretty ugly to be honest, but it's also so unique. Every other Classic skin we have in the game fits into that same silhouette, and you can always tell, yep, that's a Classic skin. You still can't tell here due to the size, but I like that they dared to do something pretty different with the shape. I also reckon because the Classic is so small, there's less room for the design to get convoluted or messy, which helps make it feel a little thinner. You've got the rose, you've got some of the tree elements, and then sharper metal parts to round it all out. Then the Marshal has a really gorgeous model and design. I even believe it has its own equip animation. At the very least, it's not quite the same as Nocturnum. Once again though, the shooting sounds just aren't quite hitting for me, but the rest of this skin, the reload, the equip, the inspect, do a really good job of feeling both haunting and mystical. Finally, for the weapons, the Guardian is actually a little bit lost on me. It somehow feels too bulky at the back and too thin at the front. I know I praised the Classic for doing something similar and breaking the mold a little, but ultimately I just can't get behind the look on this Guardian. Maybe it'll grow on me. Now let's get to that finisher I mentioned. It's got a really melancholic feel to it. I showed off some of the audio earlier with the Ace, but here's the full duration of the finisher. As you saw there, it's interactive, where you can shoot the rose and it'll explode, and it's almost as if this finisher has two separate stages, because after the rose breaks, the ground and air will fill with petals. Obviously, the finisher will update to match the variant of your gun, and I even noticed in some of the influencer customs that there's a trail of petals that follows whoever got the final kill. Not sure I'd go as far as to call that an Easter egg, but it's definitely a cool little detail. Now, the knife is absolutely the highlight of this bundle, although I was just about to focus on the variants, so let's take a look at those first. Right off the bat, this gold variant looks pretty solid. It sort of reminds me of that same variant on Primordium, but overall, the dark and roots shifting into the metal, and then that effect coming out of the rose both look sick. Even the teal variant, which is probably my least favorite, still looks solid. Then we get to the purple colorway, which practically makes this bundle a must-buy for Viceman. I mean, this style was literally made for her, and I wish Riot did this more often, making skins that really lean into the aesthetic of certain agents. Now, like I said, the knife is definitely the highlight of this bundle, although it does have some merit to it at level 1. If you want to go without the extra sound and visual effects, and instead opt for something cleaner, you can see here that you will still have the Araxis Inspect at level 1. Having said all that, they did go all out on the animations for the level 2 on this knife. It has its own equip animation, new inspect animation, and even a new right click too. The reason I'm hesitant to call the equip animation new is because it technically seems to combine the equip of both Kuronami and Araxis into one, but to be honest, I do like how that looks. Then the new inspect is pretty eye-catching, where the blades hover in the air and spin in front of you. It is cool, but it feels a little bit short to me. I absolutely adore the right-click animation though. It feels so snappy and satisfying to use in-game, and out of 10 on that one, no. Last but not least, the Blackthorn collection is also going to come with a flex, so hopefully that doesn't lead to the price of the bundle increasing. I think it's nice how it appears in your hand, but it does have all the basic flex animations, although some music will play if you spam the left click. Like I was saying earlier, this bundle is expected to cost 8,700 Valorant points, which would make the guns 2,175 VP alone, and the knife should be 5,350 VP. I might have sounded negative at some points throughout this video, but I actually think this skin line is great. It's definitely not for everyone though, with the theme and how bulky and aggressive the model feels. I'd argue that Classic and Martial are both standouts, and the knife, like I said, is pretty incredible. So overall, I would honestly say that this bundle is worth it, at least in Valorant terms.